Hello there. Welcome, everybody. This is the Glentendo Podcast. Another week. How are you guys doing? I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. This is a weekly Nintendo/Smash community podcast. And the show comes up every Thursday for supporters on Patreon. And then it becomes free to all every Sunday. You can listen on Apple Podcast and or Spotify and or YouTube. So thank you guys for listening. Welcome back to another week. We've actually gotten a pretty good amount of new supporters in the last few weeks, so I'm eternally grateful to all of you. Thank you guys very much. It means a lot to me. And I've also just been getting a lot of good feedback. People seem to be enjoying the show, and they seem to be enjoying me talking about Nintendo stuff. I haven't annoyed you yet, which is really rare. Because at this point, we've been doing the show for since August, I want to say, and we haven't missed a single week. So that's probably 4 months, which is a lot of hours once a week. Some of the episodes are like 2 hours long. Most of the time, it's around an hour. So you guys have been putting my voice into your brain for a while now, and I am very appreciative that you still want my voice in your brain. So this week is a holiday-ish kind of episode. We're going to talk a little bit about that stuff, talk about 2020 in general, and we're going to answer a lot of feedback and questions from our great audience. Thank you guys for supporting and contributing to the show in any way, shape, or form. We're going to open here with a question that I got from Mr. Nair SSB. Hey Glenn, could you recommend me 3 single-player Nintendo games I should buy? It can be from the Game Boy Advance, GameCube, DS, Wii, 3DS, Wii U, Switch, and yes, I have Pikmin 3 Deluxe already. Your knowledge of Nintendo is far greater than mine. Thank you for saying so. That's how you get on the show, by the way. If you ask a question and in the middle you just put in Glenn, you're so godlike. Please recommend something to me. I'm going to read it on the show. But yeah, he says, your Nintendo knowledge is greater than mine. And the games that he kind of has a taste for so far are 3D Mario, Modern DKC, Breath of the Wild, and Pokemon, just off the top of my head. Okay, cool. So I'm going to recommend. The first thing that comes to mind is I think you should. I'm not seeing any Metroid on that. And I think if you're a fan of, Mario and a fan of Zelda, Metroid is kind of like this in-between series that I just can't imagine someone being a fan of Mario and Zelda and not liking Metroid. Because it combines the movement and the platforming of Mario, and it puts it kind of like in a Zelda-ish map, right? So Zelda's not very movement based, you know what I mean? It's not like Mario where it's about timing stuff right and moving really quickly and stuff. But Mario doesn't have the mazes and the world building that Metroid or the Zelda has. So I feel like right now, go on your Switch, go on the SNES app, and definitely check out Super Metroid. Try that out. I can't imagine you not liking that game. And in terms of modern games, I mean, Modern DKC, Breath of the Wild, Pokemon. I mean, those are all such different games that the only thing I could see in common with all those is that those are all very gameplay oriented games. None of those games are heavy on story. I would recommend Splatoon 2 on the Switch and Super Metroid. So another way I'm going to attack this question is he mentioned all these different game systems, right? So he said Game Boy Advance, GameCube, DS, Wii, 3DS, Wii U, Switch. I'm just going to give you one game for each one, right? So Super Metroid needs to be there. On Game Boy Advance, I would recommend Zero Mission, which is probably just as good as Super Metroid, if not better. That's another game where I can't imagine someone not liking Metroid Zero Mission on the Game Boy Advance. And Advance Wars. I think those are probably the 2 best games on that system. Advance Wars is more of a strategy game, so if anything, maybe that's the one game that you're not going to like, or maybe if you're just not into strategy. But I can't imagine you not liking those games. On GameCube, I mean, it's obvious. You got to play Resident Evil 4, Metroid Prime, Wind Waker, Pikmin 1 The first Pikmin is just classic. It still holds up. It's still great. On the DS, the DS is this weird system because I feel like the DS is so godlike, but the DS actually doesn't have like a singular game that is like, it has a lot of good games, but it doesn't have like one amazing game that you have to play. Like probably the best games on the DS were like the Pokemon games, and even a lot of people, like even me, I really like Diamond and Pearl, but when if that's like your seventh Pokemon game, it's not going to really stand out. And like the Zelda games on that system don't really stand out. They're good. They're just solid. My favorite DS game is Mario Kart DS, but I wouldn't recommend it now. Like the DS is this weird thing where I'm not really sure what to recommend on that system that has held up and like stood the test of time. All my favorite games on that system have aged like kind of weirdly and not so great. So I'm gonna skip the DS. I can't really recommend anything on the DS, really, which is kind of insane to say because it's like Nintendo's biggest system ever. But yeah. Oh, you know what? I can recommend something on the DS. So I mentioned earlier, you should definitely play Metroid, right? But if you have access to these games, this is going to be hard, but the Castlevania games on the DS, like Dawn of Sorrow and um, there's a couple of them, but Dawn of Sorrow is the first one. I would highly recommend Dawn of Sorrow. That game is awesome, and I can't. That's another one where it's like that's like the best of Castlevania, like Symphony of the Night, Dawn of Sorrow, and some of the Game Boy Advance ones. Like those are just really great games. So I could recommend that. On the Wii, I'm gonna go with a deep cut. Everyone already knows you got to play, Mario Galaxy, and you got to play Wii Sports, and you got to play. Um, Brawl at the time and all that stuff. But on the DS, I mean on the Wii, the game that no one talks about that is so good. It's one of my favorite games ever. No one talks about this game. It didn't sell very well, even though it got great reviews, and it's not part of a franchise that anyone cares about. There was a Capcom developed game called Zack and Wiki. If you have access to this game, if you could find it, because you can't download games on the Wii anymore, and it wasn't even available for download. They didn't have. They only had a virtual console games for download. They didn't have like the main games the way they do now, where you could just either buy them in a store or download them. This game was really cool. It was. It was like the best use of the Wii remote motion controls before like Skyward Sword. But yeah, Zack and Wiki. It was developed by Capcom, and it's like a puzzle game in a 3D environment. It has really cool cel shaded graphics. It has like a pirate aesthetic, and so they drop you into this. They always drop you into like this like world or level, right? And you basically just need to figure out what combination. It's a puzzle game where you have access to a lot of different things in the map that you can do. So you dropped an area, you could pull this lever, and like this rock will come out, right? And then you'll go to the other side of the room and you'll find like this block that you can move, or this key that you can move, or like you could stir a pot. Like there's all these things that you can interact with the Wii remote. But the key is you have to figure out in what order you're supposed to do them in. And that sounds really simple. But when you actually figure it out and you're in the scenario and you're playing the levels, it is so much fun. Like there are certain levels where you have to drop this thing into like this frozen pond, and then it becomes an ice cube, and then you put the ice cube in this other thing, and it has like a Zelda-ish puzzle solving element to it, but it's all motion based. You play the entire game with just one Wii remote pointing at the screen. The game's also really colorful and charming, and the characters are really funny, and it has like a bit of an anime aesthetic. But that's a game that when it came out in like 2007 or 2006 on the Wii, everyone was saying how great it was, and somehow like it never. I don't know if it was the art style. I don't know if it was because the Wii was just so weird in terms of the audience that it captured, but no one cared about this game. So yeah, Zack and Wiki, that game, if you have access to it, definitely check that game out. I mean, I don't even know. You know what? I'm going to do you a favor. I want to see, just out of curiosity, I'm going to look this up on eBay and see how much this game is to get right now. Dude, there's someone selling this game for 99 cents. All right, that's hilarious. Yeah, you can get this game for very cheap. I'm seeing like $13 buy it now. Free shipping from one of these dudes. Please, guys, this game is really cool. And at the end of the day, let's say you buy this game, you don't love it. It's not like you don't understand why I like it that much or whatever. Uh, at the very least, all right, you spent $13 and it's going to be an interesting experience. And if you just want to have a cool experience, like there's no game I could think of that's plays similar to it. It's really cool. Or at the very least, go on YouTube, check out some videos to see if it looks cool to you, and at least look up the gameplay. I can see that kind of game though, like on YouTube. If you look it up, it might be the type of game that doesn't look fun, but it's fun to play. So, okay, so we went through the Game Boy Advance, the GameCube, the DS, the Wii, the 3DS. 3DS. Let's see. What would I recommend on the 3DS that is like a little bit uncommon? Kid Icarus Uprising, I think, is one of those ones that's like it's now looked at as one of the best games on the system. There's no game that plays like it. It's very unique. It was made by Masahiro Sakurai, the creator of Smash Bros. And Kirby. So it's just cool to see him make stuff outside of those things, and you're gonna think it's pretty cool. I think that game is, I don't know anyone who doesn't really like it. And there's like a lot of funny characters and dialogue, and they find a clever way of giving you a story and character development while you're playing. So the structure of the game is that the first half of every level is kind of like a Star Fox on rails aerial shooter, and it's very fast paced. And while Pitt is flying to his destination, the entire time that you're playing the game, the characters are having dialogues and talking and having fun. And Pitt is talking to Palutena and she's telling him like, hey, you got to do this. And then they always make it like really funny. And that's kind of the thing that made the game stand out, is how funny the characters were. But outside of that, the game is just really interesting gameplay wise. So the first half of it is an on rails aerial shooter. He's flying around, right? And then when he gets to his destination, you're on foot and you have to. It becomes like a third person shooter, and like you have melee weapons and you solve, like there's light puzzle solving, but it's not really heavy on that. But the biggest thing is that it's a fast paced shooter, and there's a lot of weapons and a lot of customizable stuff, and it's a really interesting game. That game is a game that I think when everything is said and done, like years from now, people are going to look back at 3DS and think, wow, this was like the weirdest, first party Nintendo game that came to the 3DS. And yeah, if you like Smash Bros, you definitely need to check out the main menu of Kid Icarus. So apparently, Masahiro Sakurai's wife designs the menus for each of his games. And if you look at any of his games, like even going back to like Kirby Superstar on like the Super Nintendo, or like Kirby's Air Ride, or all the Smash games, and then Kid Icarus, you can tell that there's like so much detail and so much effort put into just the menus. There's like an iconic, he's one of the only creators I could think of where his menu design of his games, it tells you like it's he has his own defined style and taste for literally just the menus. So yeah, definitely check out that game, Kid Icarus Uprising. And Wii U, I already gave you Pikmin 3, so that's off. I would say Wonderful 101, Bayonetta 2, and let's see, what else on the Wii U do you have to check out? Ah man, the Wii U is so weird. It's like probably the least fun I've ever had with a home console, like overall. Like it's just, I don't remember a lot of great games on it. Nintendo Land, I would say, but that's gonna be kind of hard because you need people to play with and you need Wii remotes. Like you need so many peripherals to enjoy that game. So I guess I'll keep it at Wonderful 101 and Bayonetta 2. And on Switch, I'm recommending obviously Super Metroid on the Virtual Console, on like the SNES app. Um, Splatoon 2. You got to play that. You have to play Splatoon 2. This game is amazing. And again, there's nothing else like it. There's no third person shooter like it. Just like the most recent first party Nintendo magic, like they create a new genre. It's so sick. There's never going to be a game like that. So, Mr. Nair SSB, that's me answering your question as to recommending some games. And also, I love that his name is Mr. Nair SSB. For those who you would have to know Smash Brothers competitively, but he's an Ike main, and the reason his name is Mr. Nair is because that's literally all Ike does is Nair. That's all he does. Nair stands for neutral air. So if you jump in the air and you press A, he does this giant, like, swinging sword move that it's all over his body, and it makes me so annoyed. I hate fighting Ike. I can't stand that character. He drives me crazy. He's always bothered me in every Smash game. But anyway, Mr. Nair, you're awesome. Thank you for listening to the show, submitting a question. I hope you have a great and happy holiday. So another cool thing, or something that the Nintendo's been doing recently, I remember they did this last year, is they have been sending out emails through your Nintendo account that tells you your year in review, which is such a cool little feature, right? So I got mine, and it says, your total hours played for 2020 is 1,333 hours. And in 2019, you tallied 658 hours. So I basically doubled my time this year, which makes a whole lot of sense given that I was home a lot more. And it's so cool that they just send you these little stats for your year in review and stuff. It says here your number of games played is 30 games. In 2019, you played only 22 games. And it tells you your most played games. So my most played games by hours in 2020 has been Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. No, I wasn't surprised at all by that. I basically play that game every single day with friends, enter tournaments, stuff like that. And I really was playing it a lot more this year just because I found my character finally that I really want to play and I feel good with. And then my second most played game was Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. So at first that kind of surprised me because I already had so many hours in the Wii U version, and I didn't think I was going to put as many into the Switch version. But um, anyone who follows me on Twitter knows that each and every Sunday we do the Glentendo circuit. It's an online free Mario Kart 8 tournament. Anyone can join. And this really took off. I started it back in April, I think. And it really took off because a lot of Smashers, um, you know, a lot of Smashers don't like online tournaments, and we were all quarantined and looking for games to play together and bring us together. So I started a Discord and a weekly tournament, and it kind of blew up. We started attracting players that were outside the Smash community and stuff, and it's still going pretty strong. We average 20, at least 20 people every week, and or a little bit less than that every now and then. But yeah, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, that game saved the early pandemic, man. That game really came in clutch. And especially because I'm god at that game. I think I'm better at that game. I'm probably better at Mario Kart 8 than I am at any other game that is multiplayer. I've beaten in my own tournaments for this game people that are quote Mario Kart 8 pros. I didn't even know that there was such a competitive scene. This all started for fun, but I ended up doing really well. And yeah, it's really, really fun. I love the fact that this game came in clutch, and everyone has it, so it's so easy to get a group together. And yeah, definitely join those tournaments if you want. We're still going strong every Sunday. Check out my Twitter to see the graphic. All you need is this little code that is on the graphic, and then you go on your Switch, you go to online tournaments, you type in the code, and then you just enter at the specified time. And it's really, really fun. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, bro. And then my third most played game was Breath of the Wild. So at the beginning of quarantine, I actually replayed the game again on Master Mode. And this time I was just able to enjoy the game. My first playthrough of a new Zelda's is always a little weird because it's always me asking myself if I'm okay with all the things they changed. Zelda games evolve a lot from game to game, and obviously it's my favorite game series, and I'm too attached to it. So whenever something is changed, I'm always I don't know how I feel about this. And then I always beat the game and then play it again, and the second playthrough is when I'm oh, this all feels it all comes together, and I just enjoy it. So this playthrough of Breath of the Wild, I thought I was just gonna beat it as quick as possible. I was just gonna go to everything on the map really quickly and not explore as much. And I ended up putting another 200 hours into the game. And it's that game is unbelievable how great it is. And yeah, it's obviously everyone already knows that game is beyond amazing. So my fourth most played game this year was Animal Crossing New Horizons, which I'm surprised. I can't believe that I put that many hours into the game because I didn't love this new Animal Crossing, and it actually has nothing to do with the game itself. I actually don't really think that. I think it's a great game, and They added a lot of cool new stuff, but I think I've played every Animal Crossing game since the first one, every single one. And there's just like that kind of game. It's very difficult for it to feel new. Like it's very hard for them to evolve that formula. Like something about that style of game is just it's hard for them to make it very, very different. And so I there wasn't really a moment playing this one where I was really, really like enamored with it. Um I don't know. I think the game is a little too solitary where it's like I feel like I'm decorating stuff, but it's only for me. And it's like if I was sharing my town with other people like I did on the GameCube, it would be more motivating for me to like do stuff because you're doing it with someone else and all this other stuff. But when you're just playing it by yourself for yourself, I'm sure there's a lot of people who love it anyway. But for me, I'm like, this feels like it's for nothing. And um, I still enjoyed it, and I actually just started playing it a little bit again because now I have the terraformer thing where I can like build the cliffs and stuff, and so I'm actually more excited about that since I never got to do that in a previous game. It just feels like the beginning of the game is very fresh and new because they introduced like the crafting stuff, and that's new to the series, and I thought that was interesting, so that kept me going early on. But then it just gets into this middle portion where it's just like every other Animal Crossing game you played, and then now the terraformers at the end and I feel like that's another new thing. So maybe if they put that earlier, someone like me would have been a little more into it. Or if I shared my town with somebody. Um, but yeah, the game has a bunch of issues with multiplayer and local multiplayer stuff. Like their approach to that was very strange. But yeah, Animal Crossing, I mean, of course, it is a great game. And I think for a lot of people, it was the best Nintendo game of this year. It was certainly the biggest one that they put out. Um, I still liked it, but I'm surprised that it was even my top five. Like, did I really not play any other game more than that? And so the fifth game on my list, according to this Nintendo thing, is Final Fantasy VII, the original game. Played it on the Switch this year. I think I've already talked about that a little bit, but I grew up with this game on the PlayStation, and I thought I was going to revisit this game as a grown man and be like, this game sucks. Like, this game just did not age well. This game looks bad and all this stuff. And I ended up replaying it this year because I knew the remake was coming out. I wanted to remind myself of the original before the remake. I thought the remake was going to replace the original, which now I know it didn't. And so if you already played the remake, you can play the original. It's basically two different experiences. But I was in a rush to play it so that I could like be familiar with the game one last time that I grew up with, that I had so many good memories with before the remake deleted it from existence. And so I played it and I love this game. Dude, it's so good still. Like, yeah, like all right, it doesn't look amazing. You know what I mean? The cutscenes that they used to blow our mind when we were kids, they're just like not good anymore. Like a lot of that stuff hasn't aged well, but the core gameplay, a lot of the characters and the world and the music and like all of it, it still was so much fun for me. And it's like, dude, it's like $8. Like this game was great. And on the Switch, it was even better because that kind of turn-based RPG stuff, like I think that works better on a portable thing. Like I don't want to sit at my couch and play this game. I want to like be curled up in bed or like on the go and just do a couple battles and stuff like that. Plus the Switch version, all the modern ports are the same. They're basically based off like the PC version, so there's nothing unique about the Switch specific version. It's the same as if you played it on PS4 or Xbox. But all these new ports, they have like a fast forward function, which I didn't think I was going to use. But when you get to like 50 hours into the game, and then like you're seeing a 2 minute cutscene for one of your summons for the millionth time, you're like, yeah, I kind of just need to fast forward this. And so there's a lot of little quality of life changes that are great. So this game is awesome. I don't know. I don't know if you would like it if you didn't grow up with it. I think it still holds up, but I'm having trouble understanding if it's like if I only feel that way because I grew up with it, so it's still familiar to me and it's nostalgic for me. I can't tell how much of it is there. I think the battle system is going to be fun for anybody, but then again, there's a lot of RPGs with that battle system, so I don't really know. I don't really know how much people are going to love this game if they didn't grow up with it, but I certainly loved it. I'm glad to see it was my fifth most played game by hours. Damn, I have to go look up how many hours that was because I'm surprised. Like, did I really not put more hours into something else? I feel like I played Final Fantasy VII like fast. Like it's probably only 40 hours or something that I put into it. But this email that Nintendo sent out. If you want to check out yours, you just go on their website and you sign into your My Nintendo thing. You should have also just gotten an email. That's how I got it. But it's really cool that they do this, but it's also like, dude, where's the activity log for the Switch the way that the 3DS and the Wii U had it? The 3DS's activity log was amazing. It was so fun. Like, you could see so many different details about how much you played games and how many steps you took and all these different like little categories. And then the Wii U one had one that was similar but like a little bit more confusing and vague, but it was still like solid. Like, you can kind of just see how many hours you put into games. But then the Switch has like a very vague, like it just gotten more and more vague since the 3DS. And the Switch has one where it says you played for about this many hours, but it doesn't tell you how many. There's no way to check what your number one game is by hours or how much you played it, how many different times you've played it. It's very just vague, and it's good that they have it, but like, I wish they just had an activity log. That would be so sick. There are two things from the 3DS era that I think the Switch needs, and hopefully, if the rumors are true and next year we get a Switch Pro, I hope they incorporate these two things. Number one, activity log. Number two, Street Pass. Street Pass was awesome, and if they can do that again, I will be so hyped. So yeah, we're gonna talk a little bit about holiday stuff. I asked our audience on Twitter and on Patreon to I think a lot of shows they're gonna do, happy holiday stories. And it's like, I want to hear the bad stories because I think video games, if you're a gamer, right? Video games are such a young medium. It's only really been popular since the 80s that a lot of people's parents just don't understand games. And so I just knew asking people these questions that most people's answer is going to come from like the confusion of what video games are. So the first answer that we have here, the first story, is very short and simple, is from show producer the legendary Riz, and he responded saying, my mom asked if I wanted to get a game, and I told her I wanted Final Fantasy VII, right? And she ended up getting me Final Fantasy VIII. As a child, I was tight, but it ended up being one of my favorite games. And to this day, it's actually Riz's favorite Final Fantasy game. He's one of the rare people. If you don't know the lore of Final Fantasy fandom, Final Fantasy VII is considered like one of the best ones. And Final Fantasy VIII is not. People like found that game to be disappointing for many reasons, but it's supposed to still be a great game. It's just that it was following like the legendary Final Fantasy VII. So a lot of people in the Final Fantasy community look down upon VIII. Meanwhile, Riz is here, forever the contrarian. No, he's not. But anyway, his favorite is VIII. But yeah, this story is like, again, it's like people's parents, they're just confused by the numbers and like this is an Xbox 360 and this is an Xbox One and this is a PS3 and this is a PS5, and like it gets very confusing. People didn't grow up with it. But I'm glad that your mom did the right thing. Your mom's basically from the future. She knows what's best for you, bro. All right. She, instead of getting you 7, she got you the one you were gonna love as a man, not the one you're gonna love as a child. So go thank your mom, Riz. And another story that we got was from Amoral Atheist. He's a friend of mine. And he said that this is like the classic. This is the classic, like, your parents don't understand or your grandparents don't understand, like, video game stuff. My grandma went to Puerto Rico and said she got a PS4 for me. I was so hyped. But then she came back and I received a PS1. Dude, this is one of the unwritten rules about this. The further up your family tree the gift is coming from, the worse the confusion's going to be, right? So that's your grandma. It's not even your mom. Like, your mom probably would have got you like a PS3 at least, all right? But your grandma, like, she's so far away from video games that she got you a PS1. Like, that is hilarious to me, man. The further up that family tree you go, the more confusing the gift is going to be when it comes to video games, man. When Nantunis here, so we have another theme here from some of the answers that I got. revolve around a specific character that has just cemented himself as the most annoying character in the video game landscape. All right. So Nintunist, a good friend of mine, he said maybe Sonic and the Secret Rings got it for Easter, and I played it to a point where I had to backtrack and complete some of the tedious and boring missions to proceed. And then the game controlled so bad that even as an 11-year-old, I was like, nah, I can't play this game. And then we have another good friend of mine, Koopa, and his response to the worst holiday video game gift that he got is Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric. Got it from my sister, exchanged it 3 days later because the game kept crashing. So I'm seeing a pattern here that Sonic. I'm only going to read these two, but dude, I got to tell you, like 5 of the stories that I got revolve around Sonic. Like just Sonic. You got a Sonic game for Christmas or for a holiday, in this case Easter for Nintunist, and it was trash. It was garbage. Sonic is so, dude, it's just crazy that Sonic is so well designed as a character. Like just Sonic. People love Sonic so much that he's been able to get away with he's such an innovator. He's a groundbreaking character because no other character has been able to put out trash for 20 years and stay relevant and still sell millions of copies. That's how much we love just the base design for Sonic. I actually still think like I like the actual design, right? Like the way he looks. He's one of the coolest characters of all time. He's so iconic. Everybody knows and loves Sonic, but his games are so bad. It's like no other character been able to get away with that. I don't even think the legendary Mario himself, right? Mario is, who doesn't love Mario? And he's put out nothing but classics for 30 years. Like even some of his latest games are like as good as the early ones. I don't think Mario's design, just Mario himself, is good enough. I don't think people are in love with just Mario enough to withstand 30 years or 20 years or even 10 years of garbage. I think if Mario was bad 10 years ago and he was putting out nothing but garbage, I really don't think that you'd be care about Mario the way today. Like I don't think he'd survive the way Sonic has survived. Like Sonic is just, people have an irrational love with Sonic. No matter how many Christmases he's ruined for you based off of these things. He's Dude, these games are so bad, man. Like I have Sonic and the Secret Rings, right? I bought it. I actually bought it. I pre-ordered that game. I bought it on release. I was there. It was during the great Wii drought of 2007. It was like the Wii came out and it came out kind of good, like swinging. Like, all right, we have Twilight Princess and Wii Sports at launch at the end of 2006. And then once I was done with Twilight Princess, I was like, all right, well, I'm ready for the next big game. And the next big games weren't like coming for like months. Like it was, I don't even remember what the next one was, but I remember it just being, I would go online and like all the Nintendo fans were basically in agreement that it's like, all right, Twilight Princess was great, but we have nothing to play until like, 6 months from now. So I was like, okay, this Sonic game looks interesting. I haven't bought a Sonic game in years. So I'll buy Sonic and the Secret Rings. And I actually didn't even think it was that bad. Like a lot of people think it's like probably the worst one or like next to Sonic 06, which is just, it doesn't even work. So it's crazy to put it next to a game that literally doesn't function. But I didn't think it was that bad. Like it was kind of interesting for a while. I'm sure if I played it now, I'd be like, man, how did I even play this for 10 minutes? But yeah, Sonic, I don't know how he gets away with it, man. We love Sonic that much. Oh my God, how do you put out bad games for 10 plus years? The Koopa specifically, I'm going to call him out right now. All right. He's a good friend of mine, but man, he's the problem. Koopa buys every Sonic game. Okay. He literally has no shame about the fact that Sonic is a DNA strand of his identity at this point, and that he has to buy every game. And he's probably saw that movie at midnight release with his little Sonic socks on and everything. Koopa, we love you, but this Sonic thing, there's a certain point where you clearly just like abuse in some form. So anyway, moving on from Sonic, I actually wanted to tell my story, right? So I asked everybody, what are some of the worst video game related holiday items that you got? You guys answered. And so I wanted to tell my story about the best slash worst. My story actually is the best holiday, like Christmas video game related thing that ever happened to me. And it's also one of the funniest and one of the worst at the same time. So I don't know what year it was. I don't remember, but I was a really young kid, right? And the only game systems that we had in my house were a Sega Genesis and a PS1. And the both of those consoles belonged to my older brother, so I didn't feel like I had my own. I kind of could only play them when like people thought it was okay. And at some point I was like, yeah, I wish I had my own console, and we already have a PlayStation, so I'll get an N64. So I asked for an N64 for Christmas, and I didn't really know anything about Nintendo or anything like that. Like, I hadn't played any Nintendo systems to that point. So I didn't even know what to ask for. I was like, yeah, I guess it makes sense to get the one that we don't already have and get the games that we don't already have. So I open on Christmas Day, I open up my N64, and it's like the meme of the kid screaming, Nintendo 64. Like, that was me. Like, that kid, that was honestly like tame. That was like, honestly, I looked at that video and I was like, I don't know why everybody's thinking this is crazy. Like, my reaction to my Nintendo 64 blew that out of the water. All right, I just didn't have someone recording me at all times. All right, I don't live in a surveillance state at all times. So anyway, I was like literally over each and every moon of our galaxy opening this N64, and so I was like, I was just so amazed. And then obviously you have to open games because there's nothing like, you could be as excited as you want about the N64, but I mean, you're not just going to hold a controller and stare at a black screen. You got to play a game, right? So I open up the games, and here's the 3 games that my family decided to get for me. I'm not really sure if it was that, because this is what I think happened. My mom obviously doesn't know anything about video games, right? But I think she commissioned my brother, my older brother, to get me games for this thing, right? And so I think these were his choices. So I'm not even blaming my mom for this, all right? He got 3 games for me for the N64. One was Turok 2, the other one was South Park, and the last game was GoldenEye. So it's funny because, first of all, they're all first person shooters, right? All these games are first person shooter games. Turok was like a first person shooter where you're running around shooting dinosaurs and stuff. And South Park was like a funny first person shooter and stuff. And it had like, fart bombs and stuff. It was pretty funny. And then GoldenEye, you already know GoldenEye. Everybody knows GoldenEye. The game is amazing. So looking back now, I just think it's funny that there was no Mario 64, there was no Zelda, there was no Mario Kart. It was literally just 3 first person shooters, right? And they all are kind of like a little bit mature, right? Because like Turok had a lot of blood in it, and South Park has like a lot of sexual references and like stuff that as a child I didn't really get, but looking back now, I'm like, okay, that was wow, all right. And then GoldenEye is, it's GoldenEye, and there's like, you blow people and kill people up, and there's blood in it and stuff like that. So I ended up not really liking Turok that much because it was like, it actually looked really pretty, and I remember finding it interesting, but it was way too hard and obtuse. And I remember just running around that world and having no clue what to do. Like, oh, you have to find these keys, and I'm like, where are they? Maybe now I would just like destroy that game and find it great, but at the time I just didn't understand it. South Park was cool, but I was never really a big South Park guy for some reason. Like, I don't know why. Even as a kid, I just wasn't super into like that stuff. I respect it, but it's not like my taste. And I didn't find that game super, super fun. Like, I liked it. I definitely liked it and played it a lot, but I wasn't in love with it. GoldenEye, I was in love with GoldenEye, right? So everything worked out. I got my N64. Great. One of the best Christmases ever. I was, again, literally, my physical body was over every possible moon. All right. I was in heaven. When this turns a little sour is actually a couple months later, right? I don't know how long, because again, I was a kid, and yeah, I don't remember. But a couple months go by, right? And again, GoldenEye was my favorite game of those 3. So I was playing GoldenEye as I did every weekend, and I was playing the heck out of that game. And so one day, me and my sister are playing GoldenEye, and we just thought it would be funny if we set it to like the only items that are on are like the throwing knives and the karate chop. So we start playing the multiplayer and we're throwing the knives at each other and we're karate chopping each other, right? And then we notice that if you karate chop, if you shoot someone in that game, you see like a little blood spot on their clothes, right? And if you hit someone in the face, the same thing would happen. But if you karate chop someone in the face or throw like a blunt object, they would bruise their face and not, there wouldn't be blood. And for some reason, we thought that was hilarious. Like, so we were like laughing out loud at looking at like the blurred, bruised faces of our GoldenEye characters. And so my mom happens to be walking by at this precise moment where we're throwing knives at each other and laughing about it, right? And so from her perspective, this is the first time that I think she looked at what was on the screen and like understood, and it was clear to her, like, wait. This is what my kids have been playing for months. This is what I commissioned my eldest son to do, is to teach my kids how to laugh throwing knives at each other. So she goes ballistic, right? She just starts seeing red. She was seeing like every color of the color spectrum, dude. She was seeing Roy G. Biv. It was just ultraviolet. Like, it wasn't even red. It was just infrared, ultraviolet. She went nuts. Like, she could see every fabric of space time. I've never seen someone go from 0 to a billion that fast. Like, you could just see in her eyes, and she lost it. That I was just the kid throwing knives at my sister. I don't know. We were both laughing about it. So she grabs the N64 cart and she yanks it out of the system, and she just like spikes it like she's in the end zone. Like, bro, I've never seen my mom like ever do anything like this. She just lost it. And she spiked this cartridge on the floor, and it just split open. And then she just like left the room. She was like, she just broke the cartridge. She was like, this is done. This is over. I think she grabbed it, put it in the garbage, and then just walked away. I was like, you guys are never playing something like that ever again. All right? And so she left. And then I rushed over. The second she left, I was just like in shock. I rushed over to my precious little cartridge, dug it out of the garbage, and then I just started like trying to resuscitate it, give it mouth to mouth, just blowing on the cartridge, trying to like bring this thing back to life. And luckily, I found that if I held, so like when she spiked it, right? She basically, it split open on like the bottom right corner of the cartridge. So if you looked inside, you could see like the guts of it. Like, here's my precious little James Bond, and I'm giving him mouth to mouth, and I'm trying to like bring him back, and his guts are spilling out. I could see the circuitry of the cartridge and stuff. And so I found that if I just squeezed the part that was split open closed, and I squeezed it into the slot of the N64, the game still worked. Right? So I resuscitated James Bond. But the problem now was, okay, now I didn't know my mom felt that way about the games. Like, I had no clue. It's a hell of a choice to buy your kid 3 first-person shooters. One of them, South Park, if you're trying to him not to have, any kind of like inappropriate experiences with his N64, right? You would think that if you are concerned about these things, you buy your kid Mario 64, which I would later play, and it would change my life. But anyway, so now it dawns on me like, oh, my mom doesn't want me playing these kind of games. So I just acted like we threw away James Bond and that he was gone. He was no longer part of my life. She had successfully defeated him and his violent ways, and it wasn't part of my life anymore. So I hid the cartridge, knowing damn well that cartridge still works, and I'm going to play that game. But now I had to be clever about it. I had to become a secret agent to get away with playing that game, dude. I had to basically like I would play a certain game, right? Like something that's, by that time I had a couple other games, so I could play like Diddy Kong Racing or something like that, and something that my mom wouldn't want to spike. She would just go, oh, okay, good. He's playing with Monkey Guy in an airplane, whatever. And so then when she would like see that I'm playing something safe and she would go on and do something else, or if I heard she was on the phone, I'd take out that James Bond, I'd resuscitate my boy, put him in, and then just start shooting people again. And that whole thing happened because my brother, I guess, I still have no confirmation on this, but my assumption is my brother thought it'd be a good idea to get me 3 violent games for Christmas. Now that I think about it, maybe it was him trying to sabotage me to start. He's like, oh, you want to get your own system? Like PlayStation not good enough for you. Okay, let's see how it goes, buddy. Here you go. This guy tried to set me up. But Christmas and the holidays are a time to forgive and to forget. I forgive you, bro. I know you're listening. Merry, merry, and happy, happy. I forgive you. James Bond, 007. That game was amazing. I still love it. And yeah, that is my holiday story. This year, this is going to be the last episode for this year. And it's been an amazing year. Obviously, it's been an insane year. But, I'm trying to, there's so much stuff that happened this year that I'm in my personal life and with friends that are probably listening right now. Like, I'm really grateful for all the stuff that I have. There's so many people out there who have it really bad. And, I think we should all take time to be grateful for stuff like that and these funny stories. And James Bond, I'm very grateful for GoldenEye. Thank you, Rare, for making that game. And yeah, this is the last episode probably for this year, as far as I can tell. If you're listening to this and you're a friendo, you're listening to this on Christmas Eve. So I hope tomorrow morning you wake up and you have a Nintendo 64 level hype moment. I hope everything that you want to happen happens. And if not, Happy New Year. You'll be listening to this before the New Year is here, before 2021. So yeah, thank you guys for listening and supporting the show in any way, shape, or form. Even if you just listen on YouTube on occasion, honestly, when you make something and there's people who care about it even a little, it's a feeling that you can't describe. It really is I'm very grateful for so much that happened this year. I'm very grateful to have started this show and for it to have continued without missing a week. And here we are, and we have more to come, obviously. So, I hope that I hope I'm doing a good enough job to keep you coming back, and look forward to the new year. I have a lot of ideas of how to grow the show and make it even better, or even just make new stuff that isn't related to the show that I think would be really fun. And so, yeah, I just can't express how much gratitude I have, especially during this insane year. And yeah, have a good holiday. And of course, Happy New Year. And feel free to reach out on Twitter or anywhere and enjoy your time with your families. But most of all, play Pikmin 3 Deluxe on the Switch. We need this game to succeed. That's going to be the main thing I needed to happen this year. So do that right now. Don't listen to me. Turn me off. Go away. Play Pikmin 3, bro. All right, guys. That's the show for this week. I'll see you guys next week. Have a good one. Have a great one. Goodbye. Thank you, guys. See you next week. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. You can follow me on Twitter at Super Glentendo. The Glentendo Podcast is a weekly Nintendo/Smash community podcast. Our aim is to have galaxy brain conversations on all things Nintendo. If you like the show, please consider becoming a friendo and supporting on patreon.com/Glentendo. Friendos get early access to the show each Thursday. The show then becomes free to all the following Sunday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts right now and you actually like the show, please give us a good review. It helps boost our visibility so more people can find the show. This show is brought to you by our amazing producers, Naomi Eduardo, In a Yellow Flash, and the legendary Riz.